in this beautiful city, we're hosting the Miro User Group Zurich Chapter, of which I'm glad to be the organizer. And some words about me. As I said, my name is Johanni Pestalozzi, and over the last 8 years, I worked as a researcher and project manager, and I currently work as a UX designer and consultant. I have a PhD in social sciences, and I studied in various countries, including Costa Rica, the USA, Germany, and now Switzerland. I was born in the Dominican Republic, then naturalized in Germany, and I'm now settled in Zurich. So it's a pretty diverse and pretty international experience what I have had, and this is so far so good about me. Now I would like to introduce you to the first activity we're going to have tonight, here in Zurich, which is a very interesting one. It's a very simple. It's called Questions from a Bucket. As you can see, very simple. It's all about, first of all, taking a sticky note from the left-hand side. And then first I will introduce it to you, and then I will give you some time so that you can try it by yourself. You take a sticky note, and there you write your name. Then you take another sticky note from the bottom here, and there you're going to write some elements about yourself. So for example, your country, your profession, and what you expect from a Miro user group like this chapter. And finally, you can click and drag a strip of paper from here, and you will have a question. And in the end, you can put all these different elements together like I did here. So you have your name, your answers to the follow-up questions about your profile, and then some pictures that reflect the answer to the question. So to get a picture and insert it into the board, you essentially go to Google, for example, and you say Greta Thunberg, as I did, and then you go to the images section. This is just for all those who are new to Miro, the Miro board. And then you go to the picture, you say copy image, and then you just come here to the board and you just Control V and it pastes it automatically. And once it's there, you can resize it as you like. All right. So far, so good. So now the idea is that you go and prepare your own profile. We're going to have 5 minutes for this activity, and then we will come back together and wrap up. Are you ready? I hope you had enough time to create a very nice profile about yourself, to introduce yourself and say some words about you. So let's go here randomly. So for example, let's start with Peter. Would you like to start and introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Johanni. Yeah, my name is Peter, or Peter. I'm from Germany, Cologne. I'm the Miro user group leader co-leader of Rhein-Ruhr, Germany. I'm a systemic coach and trainer, and it's a little bit cross MUG spying what I'm doing today here. I'm just curious about you and all the colleagues using Miro, of course. And there's one thing in my life, it's music. I'm a bass player just on an amateur niveau, and if I could be perfect, that would be great. So, thank you.
All right. So thanks a lot, Peter. So now let's move on to David or David. If you could introduce yourself, just unmute yourself and say some words about yourself.
Yep, just waiting for Zoom to catch up with me. So I'm David. I am from the UK originally. I've been living in Switzerland for 3 years now, just over 3 years. And I was in Australia for 6 years before that, and I've lived in the States and a couple of other places as well. So I'm another global gypsy. Don't know. I'm an instructional designer, so I design training and learning activities in a large pharmaceutical company in Takeda in Zurich. Yeah, and I'm here just to see how other people are using Miro, particularly for design activities, and how it's being used in training by other people as well.
Very good, very good. So
okay, yeah, my name is Andrea. I'm from Austria, and I'm an agile coach. And similar to Peter, I'm also here to spying other Miro user groups because I'm the Miro leader from Austria, from Linz, and we have our we have planned our kickoff meeting in a couple of weeks. So yeah, it's nice to see how other leaders do their events then. Yeah, and that's all about me. Thank you.
Of course. So also glad to have you here, Andrea. It's very cool, and thanks a lot for joining. We support each other in what we're doing here, and it's really great to have you here. So Natalie, if you would like to share some words with us.
Hi, everyone. My name's Natalie. I'm currently based in Los Angeles, California. I'm the community coordinator at Miro, and I am interested in continuing to build Miro's user group community. And my prompt was sorry, can you zoom in? I can't.
Yes.
If I would rather have a rewind button or a pause button on my life, very deep question. I chose rewinds because I'm very nostalgic.
Oh,
And yeah,
very sweet.
yeah.
Very nice. Is there a moment particularly in your life that you would like to relive?
I don't know about any particular, maybe you guys like, being a kid because like life was so simple. And I feel like
Yeah.
as a kid, you're like just waiting until you're a grown up. So
Yeah.
I definitely would probably like to experience being a kid again.
Yeah, I share that with you. I absolutely agree with you on that. Good. So actually, for the other participants, I don't know if you would like to add some point to the questions. I'm not sure we covered all of it. Yeah, if any of you would like to address that. If not, we just move on to Benjamin, who is up here on the board.
Yes, hello everybody. I'm Benjamin. Normally in Switzerland they call me Benny, but in English it's better Benjamin, I think. I'm from Switzerland. I live in Zurich. I'm a citizen of Zurich and I work in Zurich, so not that
Oh, wow.
international than the other ones. I work as an IT consultant, especially for product owner and business analyst topics, and as a trainer for the same topics. And what I want to have from the Miro user groups is like David, I think the tips and tricks how to use Miro for different use cases. And for me, especially, I'm interested in for trainings, for facilitation, to see how other do that or how could I do like this warm up here. I will steal that.
That's it.
Yes, that's for me. And I had a funny question. If you were the eighth dwarf, what would your name be? I would call myself knowledge, not because I know very much, more I'm very interested in different stuff. I love to learn new things, and that's why I will call myself knowledge.
Oh, very interesting. Very interesting. So everybody, thanks a lot for participating in this activity. It was very nice, very interesting. I'm gonna revise this content later on to kind of streamline the topics and make them align to this interest that you have shared with us on this board. So now we move on to the second part, which is the brainstorming session, another kind of brainstorming. Here I have selected a list of topics, I believe in total 6, that are trending topics. So for example, we have climate change, we have work life after the COVID-19 pandemic, diversity and inclusion, agile working, digital transformation, the future of work. So the idea here is essentially to brainstorm, to write down all the ideas that come to your mind when you hear any of these topics. And after we have brainstormed together, we are gonna take a moment to select one of these topics. You will place then a sticky note and write your name next to it, and then describe all these topics that were put together, and then also explain why you feel particularly interested to this topic. But first, let's start with a brainstorming session. I would start with first 5 minutes to see how much we have progressed on that, and then we can reconvene and move on to the next part. All right? So if you're ready, then let's start. All right, it says time's up. So everybody, I just read your messages on the chat that you lose me for a minute or so. I'm just realizing it. Thanks a lot for the feedback. I will check that for the next events. For now, the next step is that, as some of you already have done, you take a sticky note and you write your name on it. And then you choose a topic that you find interesting, particularly interesting to you. And the idea is to talk a little bit about it. So describe the different words that were put together and also why this topic matters to you and in which direction you would like to learn more, or you think that we should discuss more to increase more awareness in society or also within our own professional circles. So now go ahead, grab a sticky note and write your name and assign it to the topic that interests you the most. Okay, I see that David is pretty sure that he wants to talk about agile working. Wow, this one got really complete. It seems that in our community, we have people who are well informed about it or very interested in the topic. So David, if you would like to present this topic and yeah, say some words about it.
Okay. Well, most of the ones that are on there weren't filled in by me, but we definitely had someone who's done software stuff, I reckon, who put down Kanban and Scrum and SAFe, the scaled agile frameworks, because agile as a term comes from software, from a group of people who got together and designed the Agile Manifesto, a way of developing software. And that's now been a kind of adopted, but also mutated for agile ways of working and things. And it's actually a term I really dislike, because what most people are doing is not agile at all.
Oh, really?
Not in terms of what the Agile Manifesto was, or the way that it works in the software world.
So what particularly have you seen?
I've seen a lot of people try and use some of the rituals and things from Scrum in other places. So they have people working on multiple projects, doing stand-ups and things, but they don't realize the disruption it brings when people are working on multiple projects, when it was designed for people effectively working on a project. And that it often becomes very inefficient rather than bringing the efficiency it brought to software development. So I actually use some agile stuff in what I do, designing learning on the right projects, because it needs people who are very committed to it and very up for working in iterative ways and working quickly and building progressively. But it's not most projects, and it's not most big companies.
All right. So if I understand them correctly, then you mean agile should remain in the software development area, or is there a way it could be translated into other parts of project management? So kind of revolutionize the waterfall methodology or something like that?
There are attitudes from it, but I think that calling it agile when you're not doing agile and agile is a thing is a bad idea.
All right, so it's like the naming or so.
Yeah, because we've had flexible project, lots of different project management methodologies over the years. Why misuse a name that's very well defined?
I see.
And I've seen it in at least 4 big companies in Switzerland have got agile ways of working. All of them call it exactly the same thing, and it's not agile at all.
I see. Okay, very interesting. All right, so then if you would like to suggest a topic in particular that could derive from this bunch of words that are written around agile working and your own thoughts, what would that be in particular?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, I found it actually pretty interesting what you just mentioned, that how agile is being used in different contexts and things are being named agile that are actually not so agile. So yeah, we could derive something from there.
I mean, I put down the fragile, not agile, because there's actually some really good articles if you Google fragile, not agile. So I would,
Okay. All right.
Fragile or agile?
Yeah, very good. I love that title. Very catchy. All right. So thanks a lot, David. So we're gonna move on with the future of work. Here we have 3 people who have signed up for this topic. which means that we're going to have other topics that will not be discussed. But yeah, so any of you would like to start? Peter, Andrea, or Natalie?
I can start. So we actually just had a meeting sponsored by the enterprise marketing team at Miro with a bunch of folks from different enterprise companies talking about the future of work and the hybridization of it. So yeah, I think it's really interesting, especially in terms of like working for a product like Miro. We're actually going back to the office, sort of in a hybrid kind of mode. So lived experience is definitely coming into play here. And to me, it's just really interesting, like how can we move forward in terms of, because we're so used to async working and kind of blending that with, the next new normal, which is for most people, like kind of going into the office, but also working remote still. So that to me is very interesting and top of mind for sure.
All right. So I was just saying that it's very interesting what you mentioned, that the hybrid work style has become the new normal. And I actually wonder if that's going to remain. I really hope, because I think this has kind of opened a new scenario to how work could be. In many companies, many organizations, I think we're kind of reluctant to enable that because, because of productivity, you cannot track really the efficiency or the delivery or so on. And also there are workers who may feel, that the communication with your colleagues is not the same. So that's really a challenge.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, good. So I don't know if Peter and Andrea would like to add something to the topic.
Yeah, I have a question. What does not the gig economy means? This is not from me. I don't know who wrote it.
Interesting.
I put that there because I was in a talk with a bunch of management consultants the other day who kept on saying that the gig economy was the future and everyone will be going from freelance job to freelance job. And I don't think it's what most people want, and I don't think it's what gives stability. So,
absolutely.
Should it not be this kind, or do you expect that this will be much more coming?
To me, I think that most jobs will not go down that route. I think that when people are young and early in careers, then they will be more interested in it to try more things. But most people want stability in their working life. They don't. Someone might enjoy being an Uber driver to fill in for something, but there's not going to be that many people in lots of countries who want to be Uber drivers for life.
Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm a freelancer for 20 years now. so of course, Corona changes something, but not everything. I think the jobs are more fragmented. If you are going to a project, maybe normally 1 or 2 days a week, now we have a complete fragmented schedule, an hour here, an hour there, and this is a new kind of working.
Yeah,
this is very, very detailed and very fragmented. This is really challenging.
Yes, absolutely. I must say that I have changed a lot in my career, in my life. I have studied in several countries and several different topics, and although I have done that several times in my life and it has worked, and I'm actually happy that I had the opportunity to choose and try different things, at some point you feel like, or I feel that, it is good to find your niche and find your area in which you're stable and that you can plan from there. But I believe that the future may be a bit more unstable than we might wish. So because there are new technologies, there are business interests and new opportunities as well for us. Like there could be new jobs that we may take on, and we may need to somehow kind of remain flexible, remain adaptable. So I believe that we although we may wish more stability and more like a standard thing that we can follow throughout life, like a pattern, we may have to kind of like learn that skill or get accustomed to uncertainty. And that may be something that, I don't know, maybe universities or maybe programs from the government could be, put together so that it becomes a new normal that people can switch at any point in their lives. Peter, I think that this is one of the topics that you deal with in your profession, right?
Pardon, sorry, I was just
Yes,
for a minute.
don't worry, no worries. So I was mentioning that it may become necessary for people to become accustomed to changes and to uncertainty, because the future may be more uncertain than what we might think.
Yes,
So
yeah.
switching from one career to another, for example, could become a new normal.
Yes, of course. I made, I think, about 3 or 4 certificates in the last 2 years to become a systemic coach and a change manager, to make agile certification, to become a scrum master, to become a new kind of coach for project management. Who are in this transformation process, which was David talking about, in a like kind of pseudo agile environment, don't know what to do with their people, and you have to change, yes, your own qualification. You have the possibility to coach and to train people who are in a changing environment, and the changing is going on faster and faster, and so you have to change yourself, change your professional, your job description and your qualification very quick. Quickly.
Yeah, indeed. All right, so then we have diversity and inclusion. Benny, if you would like to say some words about it.
Yes, of course. I was torn between agile and diversity and inclusion.
I thought so too.
About agility, I talk every day, so I choose diversity and inclusion because I'm very interested in, and there is a huge discussion in Germany and Switzerland, because in the German language, you always use the male form. So you don't have the user and mean the male and female. So you say die Benutzerin or der Benutzer, and you always say der Benutzer. And I write a lot as a business analyst and as a product owner and as a trainer. And I started using both. So once I use the male form, the other time I use the female form. And there's always a lot of discussion about it because the people are irritated about the female form because we are not used to it. And I love these discussions because for me it's very easy to switch my habit, so to use both. So it was very easy to change my language, but it was also proof of the thinking is really within the people because of the language, and that's the way I get in touch with this diversity and inclusion, because for me it's also for myself. I made a lot of thoughts about I'm always thinking. I always have an image of a male person in my mind when I'm talking about a Benutzer, and when I'm talking about a Benutzerin, then I have a female person. So it does something with me, and I think that's really great. And I would like to spread the word and discuss this topic. There are also other problems in other languages, like English is another problem with inclusion by language than in Germany. And yeah, that's why I like this topic. Yeah.
Very nice. No, it's really great that you mentioned that you address this topic, because indeed we need more proponents of this, right? Everywhere in society and ideally in every organization. But more interestingly, I would say is that, to understand the broad perspective of diversity, right? That it includes also diversity of thoughts, diversity of origin, place of origin, diversity of interest, all these different diversity there is. And yeah, that can help us create a more inclusive and more tolerant society. But as you said, it requires definitely some kind of like um, some kind of leadership into it so that people can follow that, so that when someone changes the way you address something, you use a gender, and then other people will come along ideally, and then this will become a new normal. So it's kind of like doing the first step, and then of course being aware of how you may be taken, you may be perceived, but I think in the end if it's with good intentions, of course it will be well taken. Yeah, so I think we have covered all the topics that were assigned a name. I once again thank you all for participating. This is actually the topic I wanted to cover with you tonight. The following one is the question and answers. Let's see. Okay, we don't have any question at the moment, but feel free to email me if you have any follow-up question, particularly if you're interested in co-hosting the Zurich chapter. It would be really nice to have this organization share it with someone, and ideally someone from Switzerland. So I would really like to have some locals participating and presenting their ideas and exchanging some topics with the community. So feel free to contact me if you have any interest, any questions around that. And finally, some wrap up. As you saw, Miro is all about networking, brainstorming, having workshops, panel discussions, and more. And this is exactly what I would like to project, to show in this user group. If you want to follow up on the next activities, please go to this link. And this is our portal, and you can click on join, and you will receive the notifications whenever there is any new event from this Miro user group. So this is the end of our event. I gladly, kindly ask you to rate the event. There is a section on the board where you can take a dot, a green dot, and assign it to the number that best reflects how you felt about the event, and if you would like to recommend it to any friend or colleague. And also, please share with me what you liked, what you didn't like, and what you learned, and what you wanted to actually have discussed in this kickoff event. All right, so thank you once again for coming. In Swiss German is Auf Wiedersehen, which means goodbye. Thank you very much for coming, for sharing your thoughts, taking this moment. If you would like to become a Miro user leader, please contact Natalie, who is also part of this community today, to this Zoom event today. Also, you can join our online community at community.miro.com, and also follow up next events of the entire community at events.miro.com. So thank you very much, everybody. Have a nice rest of the day, and see you next time.